welcome to Basic Black at the Boston Public Library. We are also live streaming our conversation on YouTube. I'm Paris Alston, co-host of Morning Edition on GBH 89.7. Today, with the sun out, is timely because we are discussing skin cancer and melanomas in Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And joining us this afternoon for this discussion is Dr. Ali Al-Haseni, a board-certified dermatologist at the Dermatology Institute of Boston. Hello, doctor. Thank you for being with us. And Aku Diabakate, founder of Bold Skin Babe, which is right here on Newberry Street, just to look across the way here, and who is also a licensed esthetician. Thank you for being here as well.
Thank you, Paris, for having us.
So as I mentioned, of course, we're in a very timely environment for this conversation. It is the middle of summertime. The sun is shining bright today. And according to the Skin Cancer Foundation, 52% of Black patients and 26% of Hispanic patients receive their melanoma diagnosis after the cancer has progressed to the late stage. Now, that is compared to 16% of white patients. So this is timely because I think a lot of times statistics like that lead people, melanated people especially, to think that, oh, I'm protected from the sun. I'm not at as much of a risk. But Dr. Al-Haseni, tell us, is that true? Is that the case?
Yeah, Paris, I think that's a very good question. The sad truth is it is true, and it's more than one factor that contribute to that. The biggest factor that contributes to the late diagnosis of skin cancers in communities of color is social factor, which is access to health care. Sadly, not everyone can get a medical appointment in a timely manner, which delays the diagnosis of such cancers. And to some degree, there's a medical component, is that those cancers, specifically melanomas, when they appear in people of color, they don't appear in an area that you can see it normally. The most common site for melanoma appearing in a people of color is actually on the bottom of their foot or under the nails, which is typically an area that not everyone check on daily or routinely check.
Of course. So and why is that? Why does it show up in those places versus another more visible
good question.
spot?
We don't know exactly the reason for that, but partially due to genetics. So melanomas appearing on the face, that's an area that's had of a sun exposure, is different beast from the one that appears on the bottom of the foot. For some reason, we get that more in people of color, and sadly, that melanoma tend to spread early. So two components is that the actual cancer tend to spread early, and it getting caught late lead to the diagnosis of cancer that has already advanced, and it's not only by the skin. Yeah.
And Aku, you treat people for various skin conditions and help educate them about how to take care of their skin. But is it ever the case where you see people who have something that is concerning that may rise to the level of a melanoma, and you have to sort of bring that to their attention?
Absolutely. We have a couple of cases that we have sent to our clients to go see a dermatologist, because while we're doing the service, we do massage too. So we kind of touch the feet and we kind of see something that is not familiar to our scope of expertise, because with esthetician, there is a certain level of expertise that we can reach, and beyond that is up to Dr. Ali to just take on it. So we'll send them there and say, okay, you got to go check this out, because it's not something normal that we would see on a client or a customer that would come and get a facial or also a massage. So we encourage them to always go get like a biopsy, a skin biopsy, more often, so they can be aware of what's going on to their skin.
Yeah, and we appreciate all the work you do, because people in general see an esthetician, or like they go to the hair salon more often than they come and see the doctor.
It's true, right? They're like worried about how it's looking on the outside versus how it's behaving on the inside.
So every now and then I will get a referral from an esthetician or a person who went to get their hair done, and person noticed something on their scalp, and they point it out, and they come to us, and we can dig it. And I really appreciate all the work that you do in the community.
Exactly. It's like we're doing like a teamwork. I feel like we started something, if we see something onto the clients, and we just, okay, go follow up with the person that has more expertise on this demand. So I think it's like a teamwork all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting because, we hear about melanoma all the time, right? And you were telling me earlier that there are like 30 different types of skin cancer.
There's so many different, more than 30. But
oh, my goodness. Yes. Okay, we don't have time to go through all of them, but what are some of the most common?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say the most common 3 different types of skin cancer is basal cell cancer, squamous cell cancer, and the third one is probably melanoma. Basal and squamous cell cancers tend to happen mostly due to cumulative sun exposure. So the more sun you have, the higher the chances you get the skin cancer. So this is a skin cancer that we see typically in the older patients, older population. Melanoma sadly doesn't always need a lot of sun exposure. You just need to have the bad genes for it. And even some minimal sun exposure or even sometimes no sun exposure can trigger a melanoma. So we see this cancer in all different age groups, whether it's the young people or all old people. So I want everyone to be aware of that, of how important to check your skin.
And you don't, so you're saying you don't necessarily have to be out in the sun all day to contract
Correct.
cancer.
Yeah, there are other risk factors, and we can talk about them now or later on for skin cancers, but sun exposure is just one of many factors, so we just need to be aware of that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And for my understanding also, I feel like for our people, we always been told, oh, you don't need a sunscreen. Like, you're always fine because you got the melanin on your side, so you already protected.
Right.
And I always encourage my clientele to be more proactive on using sunscreen because it really shattered the UV light that is kind of most of the major issue of when you get a skin cancer. So I'm very prone to make sure you use your sunscreen.
Yeah. Is there a certain sunscreen you recommend? I know that lots of people are fans of Black Girl sunscreen for obvious reasons,
exactly.
right?
I'm very prone about using Black Girl sunscreen because we have no white residue and there's no cast after application of the sunscreen. And it's also, you can use it as your moisturizer. That's what I do also. I use it as my moisturizer and I'm I'm going to go.
And what about with makeup? Because I, for instance, have a CC cream that has some SPF in it, but is that, I guess you also have to be concerned about what's in the makeup.
Exactly, yeah. So it's a lot of combination that sometimes you put with the ingredient that is on the makeup and on the sunscreen. I rather have the sunscreen itself than mixed with the makeup because I know that I have 100% of this product into my skin, then mix it together. So I'm very prone to use your sunscreen and then apply your makeup. Do the other way.
Good to know.
Yeah.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
And what about you, Dr. Al-Haseni? Do you have certain recommendations for products that people, or ingredients rather, that people should be looking for in their products, and also the ones that they should make sure they keep out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in general, and I like that we started to talk about sunscreen because a lot of people who have pigment in their skin don't like sunscreen because the old brand used to leave a little bit of white cast.
Right.
Many of the newer brand has tinted varieties and have many different shades that you can match your skin tone to, so it doesn't leave a lot of white residues. And there's so many different brands. One of the ones I like is Australian Gold, and it's a mineral-based sunscreen, which means it has zinc and or titanium, and those are the best zinc to reflect harmful radiation. And they come in many different shades of light brown to darker brown, so you can find something that you like. And there are other brands that I don't need to mention, but there are a lot of good brands that you can find.
I love the shade part of it.
Yes, that's a good
point.
It's a good point.
A little bit extra.
A little bit of extra,
So when it comes to, the advice that I've always heard, right, is, you see sort of pictures, right, of what a melanoma could look like, and so you're advised to sort of check and see, do you have moles here? But we get all kinds of skin things, and you don't always know what it is. But I understand there's a sort of an ABCs of checking your skin to see if it may rise to that level.
Yeah, I'm proud of you for remembering your ABCs.
Shout out to our producer Dolores for helping me out with those, and Kenrick.
So the American Academy of Dermatology have launched a campaign to make everyone aware of the risk factors or signs for melanoma, and we call them the ABCDEs of melanoma. So basically, if you have any new spots that you think is new, always have your doctor check it. But what you can do at home is those ABCD. So A stands for asymmetry. If you have a spot, you divide it in two halves. One half doesn't look like the other. That's not a good sign. B for a funny or irregular border. C for color. So if the spot has more than one color in the same spot, that's not a good sign. D for diameter, which is anything bigger than 6 millimeters, that pencil or razor, that's not a good sign. But the most important one is E, which means evolving. So if there's something changing with time, typically good things don't change over a course of time. So if you see any one of those factors, have your doctor check that spot for you or ask to be seen by a dermatologist.
And Akur, is there anything that you tell your patients or your clients to look out for as well?
Always. As you know, we... African American always suffer from hyperpigmentation. So sometimes they mix hyperpigmentation on that spot. I have a spot here. I'm not sure if it's hyperpigmentation or I have a hyperpigmentation. So I always tell them, go check it out. Even if it progresses we have a monthly people, they come in, so if you come back and I see that there's certain change into it, I'll tell them, okay, you got to go check this one and make sure that it's not evolving as you said, which is the biggest diagnosis of the cancer.
And there's also like, I mean, we get like sun damage, right? There's, I guess, how do you distinguish between the two? And how worried should we be? Like, I have freckles, some of which were genetic, and some of which I'm like, have I just been in the sun without sunscreen a little too long? How do you determine?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, in general, freckles is mostly genetic determined. People with lighter skin tone to darker skin tone can get freckles. Typically, freckles, you get more one of them. Usually they're lighter brown in color. They get darker in the summer. They get lighter in the winter. Sometimes they even go away. But they don't actually change. They don't get bigger. While melanoma, typically it's one spot of more than one shade of color. Typically, with time, it gets bigger. It doesn't disappear, while freckles get lighter and darker, lighter and darker. I want everyone who is worried to go and have things checked. But if you're not sure, you can just see if it's changing, then probably it's not something good and you have to have it.
So Aku, I'm curious, like what the population, do you have mostly women coming to your, okay.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I'm trying to get all the gentlemen to come in too.
We need guys to take care of their skin too, and everyone in between as well. And but I asked that because I was reading about a study that was released by the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology last month that noted that while melanoma is more prevalent among white men, for instance, black men are actually more likely to die of it once they're diagnosed because, as we were mentioning earlier, they tend to be diagnosed at later stage. Do you think there's some... Do we need to be doing, I guess, I don't know if I want to call it PR, right? But do we need to be doing some messaging around that?
Yeah, it is very important. And I prone that anytime I have like a client that comes to me for a facial, I took a picture, the before and after, and showed them exactly. This is I took off your skin, this is what's happening. So you're thinking when you're walking and your skin is fine, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it looks fine, but this is what we got out of your skin. And I feel like it's more get into like being more aware that man has also to take care of their skin. It's not a female thing, like I'm going to go get a facial. It's like, it's macho. It's like, I don't want to do it. And I feel like that's that mentality that we have to educate the gentlemen to let them know that, okay, you have to get your face done. You also have to get your nail done. Like it's all about the aesthetic, you know. When you feel good, you look good, you feel good. So I think we are more proning more to invite the gentleman to come and take care of it. In that way, if we see something that is not okay with your skin, then we can forward you to Dr. Allah. Like, okay, go check this out, because then that will save your life.
And that's an interesting point, because there's more than one study now that showed when it comes to men and women, most of the times women are the person themselves to find a new cancer popping on their skin. When in men, it's mostly their partner, their women who are the one who are finding this.
So, see, they need us. I'm kidding.
Yes. Can't live without us.
Men need to do a better job, and we can't live without you.
Exactly.
So you mentioned, you were talking earlier about the risk factors. Tell us more about what those are.
Yeah, thank you. So the traditional risk factor for most common skin cancer, like basals and squamous, is just cumulative sun exposure. The more sun you have, the higher the chances. But there are other very important risk factors, one of them being if the person has immune suppressive conditions, such as if they have an organ transplant, whether it's liver, kidney, or a heart transplant. To keep that organ alive and protect it, you need to take a medicine to lower your immune system. So that's medicines, although it's helping you in one end, but it does increase your risk of having skin cancers specifically. And the longer you take that medicine, the higher the chances. So all of our families who have organ transplant, they should get annual skin check with a dermatologist. And not only organ transplant, some of the newer medications like biologics that we use for treatment of rheumatoid arthritis and psoriasis, all of those medicines also suppress your immune system, so you should have a skin check. Other risk factors like radiation, if you had radiation for treatment of anything, a breast cancer or something different, curing one cancer can sometimes sadly cause another one. So that's an important thing. And the last thing I do want to touch that is basically, no, most of our people don't get a lot of tanning beds used, but if you're getting a lot of tan, whether it's real tan or from the sun, that to put you at a higher risk. And having one family member, a first-degree family member with a melanoma, does increase your risk. So the national guidelines is for anyone who have a first-degree family member is to also get a skin check every year to make sure that there's nothing wrong going on.
That's a good point. That's a good point about the closeness and the relation, because we know that for like things like breast cancer, right? But
exactly.
we don't necessarily always think about
exactly.
it.
Melanoma is similar to breast cancer, does carry some genetics in it, so it's very important to have a check, a skin check, if you have a first-degree family member with melanoma.
And how else? I mean, we've talked about sort of the physical attributes of a melanoma, but what else? Say that you don't catch that, right? Say that you haven't been to Bold Skin Babe, you haven't been to Dr. Al-Haseni, it doesn't get caught. What other ways, what other signs could you look out for?
Yeah, sadly, if you're going to wait for something, you feel something, that's probably going to be a little bit too late. Because when we talk about every skin, any cancer, except melanoma, you need to have a significant growth to cause problems to you.
I see.
When we talk about melanoma, the degree or the chances of melanoma spreading depend on how thick it is. And if the melanoma has reached on their skin anything more than 1 millimeter, which is the thickness of a penny, if it's getting more than that, then there's a chance that it has already spread.
I see.
So
and how can that manifest, like in terms of other symptoms?
Depending on where the melanoma is, melanomas like to spread, if it's going to go from your skin to anywhere, usually it likes to go to the lymph nodes first. And our lymph node or lymph glands, for example, if it's in your hand, usually you're going to notice your lumps under the skin in the neck area. If it's on the foot, it might be in the groin area or the armpit if it's in your trunk. So that's probably the first sign to appear, just some enlarged lumps in those areas. It's going to be very late if you start to wait and notice, like if you have a problem with breathing or memory issues, just mean that it has already spread to other organs. And we hope not to catch it at that late stage because it changed how your overall survival with treatment will going to be. Yeah.
It's interesting,
Yeah,
Like
right?
that.
It's some things that you may not think
because
about.
there's like the massage, the lymphatic drainage massage, that's also what we do. So usually we pump the lymph node first, like to activate it and then so flush out the body. So it's very interesting that it attacks that because this is the one that like regulate and cleans all the toxin out of the body. It's interesting.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the lymph nodes is basically your security
your
system
security,
that tries to catch things first before they spread everywhere else.
Interesting.
So we have a few minutes left here, and Akua, I'm curious, I'll ask both of you this, and I'll start with you. Generally, what tips, I mean, we've talked about sunscreen, but what else should people be doing on a regular basis to take care of their skin?
I would say check regularly your skin and see what's going on. Like when I mean check yourself, like when you go to shower, feel your body and see what's going on, what is abnormal in it, how you're feeling, and also go regularly to the dermatologist, or if you can get a facial, see your esthetician, because usually we have a limit on what we can do, and then if we see something that is not on our level of treatment, we'll just say, okay, go check this out. And I think it's more just pay attention on how your body reacts and pay attention on how you're feeling throughout the day, years and months, and also make sure that you hydrate your water and then make sure you stay out of the sun and then make sure you use your sunscreen.
And Dr. Al-Haseni?
Yeah, very good point. And just to add on that, I like to remind people that sunscreen use should be their last line of defense. I want them to always, if you're going to go to the beach, have a wide umbrella, wide hat, or sun protective clothing, because sometimes sunscreen is not enough and people don't put a thick layer enough. Reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. That's a very important thing. And I would recommend for every person to get at least one skin check in their life, and their dermatologist will be able to tell them if they have risk factor, whether they need to come back every year or not. And please, for all of our people and community who have darker skin, check the spots that you don't normally do, the bottom of your foot, the areas that were hidden. Ask your partner to look at them, and always ask your doctor if you're worried or not sure.
Okay, awesome. Well, that is Dr. Ali Al-Haseni of the Dermatology Institute of Boston, as well as Aku Diabakate. We practiced, and I got it the first time, and then I messed it up. I'm sorry.
That's so good.
Aku Diabakate.
You got it.
Of the Bold Skin Babe, right over on Newberry Street, who's also a licensed esthetician. Thank you both so much.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for educating everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The pleasure is all ours, and we want to thank everyone who's in our audience here at the Newsfeed Cafe at the Boston Public Library, as well as those who join us on YouTube. You can check out more of our conversations and content on our digital platforms, YouTube and Facebook. I'm Paris Alston, and we hope that you all enjoy the rest of your day.